Greetings and good morning. It is February 9th, 2022. Still the third decade of the 21st century. That's kind of my mantra, that's kind of my thing, where I just like to identify that because so many people predicted us to be in a different place as a society. And I sometimes just have to marvel at some of the things we're talking about in the third decade of the 21st century. So, due to the relative small size and relative insignificance of my channel, one thing I like to do is I like to respond to people who take the time to comment on my channel. So I've received a few more responses to various videos, kind of spread out over the spectrum, and I will do my absolute level best to respond to your comments. Once again, gratuitous disclaimer. I started this channel selfishly as a form of catharsis to kind of provide myself with a space to just sort of vent, so that when I'm at work and I have a captive audience doing what I do for a living, I don't use that platform as an opportunity to say things that are inappropriate pertaining to what it is I'm supposed to be doing at that time. And then secondly, I made the channel to see if we can overcome media bias and the hypocrisy of modern media and actually have our own conversations. You know, there was a phrase back in the day: the news just reported information and it was up to us to determine how we felt about it, where now the news tells us how to feel and it's up to us to determine what we think about it. So with that being said, let's get to those responses. So BJRLIB responded to my most recent video on the 3rd of February, where I was responding to other comments. Specifically, I read Sheila K's response. And BJRLIB says, "How can you say that you understand what has happened with Whedon if you don't read the Vulture article?" It's quite simple. I open my mouth and the words come out. That's how I can say it. It's a free country. None of us were there, true. So what we have is statements from various people who were there. More importantly, we have Whedon's direct statements in the article, which came across as defensive, self-deluded, unapologetic, and tone-deaf. The article also contains examples of casual cruelty from his writing staff and people who dated him. I'm speaking as a disappointed fan here, like Sheila. Yeah, how do I apologize if I'm kind of stumbling here. As I read at least the top 1/3 of the article. I maybe have gotten a little bit further than that. There were a lot of ads and whatnot, and I'm not really good at reading off of the computer screen as much as I like reading paper. I felt as though the article not only had a tremendous amount of fluff, but that the reporter had their own specific agenda and was framing the story to tell their story, their view of the world, you know. So I'm going to take this interview with Joss and I'm going to frame the narrative to support my ultimate conclusion. And that's what I got out of it. As a disappointed fan, you know, I found myself on a fence recently, there, BJR Lib. Do I enjoy the content? Yes. In the last couple of years, after having seen Joss on other various videos espousing his socio-political beliefs, have I been in love with him? No, not necessarily. There's obviously certain things about his socio-political beliefs that I was not a big fan of. And quite frankly, I didn't really expect to keep talking about it this long. It just is what it is. Because we live in America, because we have freedoms and whatnot, I actively took advantage of that to be like, you know what, I'm just not enjoying this article, and I just said I stopped. Nora Ruiz responded to my previous video where I responded to the comments made from my video, Joss Whedon and Jensen Ackles, Is It Really What It Is? But before she did, a Kathy Sinisale, I apologize, Kathy, if I said that wrong, she responded with to the same video, isn't it sad that this even has to be a subject, in which Nora Ruiz responded, see if I got this correctly, because it has a date of January 28th, 2022. Nora, I apologize if my translation is not 100% accurate. And if you were responding directly to Kathy, it's really, I apologize for stuttering there a little bit, or stammering. Kathy, isn't it sad that this even has to be a subject? Yeah, depending on how you're looking at it, depending on the perspective in which you're looking at it. Because, yes, for some of us, the way we view the world, the way we interpret information, the way we process it, and the way we handle it based on our culmination of life experience, yeah, some of us are like, whatever. And some people, they put way more stock in it. They invest themselves more heavily than others do. And Nora, my apologies if I don't understand the context of your comment. If you're referring to the date where I often find myself saying, it's the third decade of the 21st century, then yeah, you're right. You'd think that we would be talking about other topics, like, hey, how are the colonies on the moon? How are the people doing on Mars? Hey, is your car still flying? Whatever the case may be, but instead we're talking about regressive topics. Nora and Kathy, I apologize. I'm going to assume feminine, and my apologies if that's incorrect. But ladies, yeah, depending on the context of your comments, yeah, it is sad that we're addressing these issues in the third decade of the 21st century. Now on that note, Edie Heather, I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, responded to the original video on January 21st that apparently has really brought a lot of attention to my channel that I'm not quite used to. And in their response, the clickbait videos were suggested to me a few days after I watched the Inside of You interview with Jensen Ackles, and I was kind of stunned when I saw them. I thought, this is not what I just watched. Obviously, someone has comprehension issues. Jensen was nothing but honest about the relationship with Jessica Alba. Jensen also showed empathy and understanding of what she was going through at the time, as well as explaining how the situation worked itself out into a good working relationship and friendship. Ugh, I hate clickbait. Now, your video was just suggested to me by the YouTube algorithm gods, and I'm thinking, now what? But I decided to give it a listen. Glad I did. It's nice to hear common sense reasoning, at least about Jensen Ackles' interview. I'm not as up to date on my Joss Whedon information, so I can't comment there. Well, Edie Heather, thank you. That's really what I was trying to get at there. Was I have a personal issue with the media, media hypocrisy, not telling the whole truth, creating clickbait, and that's exactly what I was trying to get over in that video. That's what I was trying to say in that video. Was if you actually watched the Jensen interview with Michael Rosenbaum, which was postponed, by the way, because of the events of Rust and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, any common sense, in my opinion, and apparently in both of our opinion, anybody with common sense, anybody that can go, yeah, that's two. Anybody with that level of understanding can watch the video and then see the potential clickbait that resulted from that and go, that's not at all what happened. That's not at all what took place. You're attempting to either start a feud, you're attempting to either get people to take sides, like I'm Team Alba, I'm Team Ackles. I mean, that's what I interpreted from all that clickbait, and it seems to some degree that's exactly what you got out of it as well. Hey, thank you again for taking the time to watch the video, but more importantly, thank you again for taking the time to comment. And more importantly, I'm glad that you commented on the Jensen stuff because I really did not anticipate the Joss stuff being so popular as it is. But I guess the recent fanfare over Joss Whedon, or lack thereof, has brought attention that, I don't know, it just wasn't a topic I really thought I'd have to be focusing on as much lately. But thank you again for your comment. So this kind of goes to a greater point, and I always highlight the time frame because a lot of people suspected that we would be more progressive in a positive direction, and I don't know that we are. I mean, I do think that there's technological advances that nobody predicted, but socially, I don't think that we're where we should be as a society. And my personal belief, my personal opinion is there are certain people who have a plan. There are certain, God, it's going to sound like a conspiracy, and I apologize. I don't have my tinfoil hat, but work with me here. There are people. There are people that seem to think, believe, or desire some perceived benefit by dividing us into an us and them, a we and they, red and blue, whatever the case may be. And my overarching goal was, I think a lot of us are more purple. All right, I think a lot of us tend to fall in between. You know, we might agree with some subjects, but not enough to be a part of that team. We might agree with some subjects, but not enough to be a part of that team, where we fall somewhere in the middle. And I don't need the media to misrepresent information. And it's funny, right? It's the media who's trying to tell us individuals are sending misinformation, when it's the media this whole time that is doing misinformation. And that video I made that has gotten so popular, I was just trying to exemplify that fact. Whether it had anything to do with Joss or not, when you look at the interview with Michael Rosenbaum and Jensen Ackles, Jensen said what he said. He was very honest, he was very empathetic, and he has a start, a middle, and a finish. And he explains, why things were with Jessica Alba and where they're at now. But that's not where it went. All right? The media played on our potential capacity to not watch the entire interview, to not go and watch the interview, and create clickbait sensation for, like I said, red camp, blue camp, Alba camp, Ackles camp. I mean, it's crazy. So, I was hoping to bridge the gap, like, hey, and that's why I titled it, Is It Really What It Is? Is it really what it is? Can we have these conversations? And, it seems that some of you, through your comments, are willing to try and have these conversations. And others seem to be stuck in their individual socio-political echo chambers, where they just want to be surrounded by other people who reinforce their thoughts and views of the world. But if you comment on one of my videos, I will respond. So thank you for commenting, and you're awesome.